Tops at Gillette Stadium, which will lie dormant for quite a few weeks until the end of November. We won't have any Patriots action. And also, we're seeing a Jimmy Garoppolo-less Patriots team for the first time in a few years. Of course, traded to the San Francisco 49ers. I was very surprised when this move went down. Just initial reactions from you guys.
Yeah, I think my tweet was, "What?" in all caps. Yeah, that was my reaction. I was very surprised.
Even though, so I first saw Adam Schefter, who was the one who reported it before the team made it official. Anytime I see a Schefter tweet, I'm usually all in, believing it, because he is usually right. He has the scoop first most of the time. But this one, especially because he's the one during the offseason that was
adamant.
Like, they're not going to trade him for 5 first-rounders.
Doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on it.
I'm not believing this until I get the Patriots official press release saying that they traded him. I just was...
So you were still skeptical as of yesterday morning?
I bought it by Monday night.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I was skeptical for much longer than I'm ever skeptical of Adam.
Yeah, it was, the timing of it was very strange. I don't think that anyone really expected it to happen. One of our competitors put out there on Twitter, I think probably minutes before it happened, like, Jimmy Garoppolo is not being traded. Then he was. So I think everyone expected them to get more out of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think everyone expected at least a first-round pick after all of the reports that came out this offseason that the Browns were willing to give up multiple first-rounders and everything. But only wound up being a second-round pick, and it seemed to work out really well for the Patriots. We were just talking about this in the Patriots media workroom, that I don't know if they would have pulled off this trade if it wasn't with the 49ers, just because the Patriots love Jimmy Garoppolo. They put him in a position to succeed, but also by trading him to the 49ers, that meant that they would have released Brian Hoyer, giving the Patriots a backup quarterback. Otherwise, I don't really know what the Patriots would have done about a backup quarterback heading into this week, for the rest of the season, for next year, for whatever. So by trading him to the 49ers, they get their backup quarterback in kind of a weird backwards dealing. They give Jimmy Garoppolo to an opportunity where he can succeed, and he's out of the conference, which helps a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a big win here for Jimmy Garoppolo, especially, I would say, because he pretty much for close to a year, everybody pretty much thought that he was going to end up in Cleveland with the Browns, which is really the last place you want to be if you're an NFL player, especially if you're an NFL quarterback, is considering they've literally never had a good quarterback since they've since the franchise was reborn like 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
Fun fact, not to cut you off, but Brian Hoyer has the best winning percentage of any Browns quarterback since 1994. So just
retire his number.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, especially being in San Francisco, who obviously the 49ers stink right now. They're 0-8, but they do have Kyle Shanahan, who's one of the kind of up-and-coming, most exciting young head coaches in the league. He's known for doing great things with quarterbacks, as he did with Kirk Cousins in the past and with Matt Ryan last year. So great place for Jimmy Garoppolo. Good place for him to be if you're the Patriots too. I mean, he's in the NFC. You're not going to worry about him being a kind of making one of your rivals. It's not like he was going to the Texans or something like that. A team that could be competing with the Patriots for kind of AFC supremacy. And it's still, though, it's a big surprise.
It is definitely surprising. And just on the Kyle Shanahan offense, I thought it was interesting. I think it was Chris Gasper who tweeted that he had talked to Jimmy ahead of the Super Bowl, and that Jimmy had comments about Kyle Shanahan's offense, saying that it's a nice offense. So
Kyle Shanahan was very interested in Jimmy Garoppolo, too, coming out of when Jimmy Garoppolo was coming out of Eastern Illinois. At the time, Kyle Shanahan coincidentally was with the Browns, and the reports were back then that his top 2 quarterbacks in that draft were Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo, who obviously didn't end up getting picked up till the second round.
Wound up with Johnny Manziel.
So I think 2 of the
sorry, Kyle.
It's close enough.
One is, why did they send him to San Francisco, and rather than maybe could they have gotten more from the Browns? And a lot of people I heard speculating that, did they do it for Jimmy? Because certainly it's a better situation for him to be in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan than in Cleveland, where quarterbacks go to die. But I mean, I just think that that's ludicrous. That Bill Belichick has never done anything for a player just because of allegiance. I think it makes all the sense in the world for the Patriots to have sent him to the NFC. And then your point, Doug, is the most glaring, because that was I mean, on the agenda yesterday for let's talk about who they could bring in, which Brian Hoyer, of course, was an option. And now that is official. But yeah, I mean, when it first happened, that was my initials. Okay, now if Tom Brady goes down, they have no one to back him up. The other big question, and I think this is the bigger question, is why and why now? And before we dive into that, let's hear from Josh McDaniels. We did just hear from him out on the field here. And also, Bill Belichick yesterday spoke on his conference call. So let's hear a little bit of what they had to say about this trade.
His career is moving forward. He's a talented individual. Was a great person to coach. I met with him weekly, and again, have a tremendous amount of respect for him. But as his career moves forward, we have to look to our team both this year and beyond, and that's a consideration we have to take. We probably had, in my opinion, the best quarterback situation in the league for the last, call it 2.5 years. It's just not sustainable, given the way that things are set up. It's definitely not something that we wanted to walk away from, and I felt like we rode it out as long as we could. We, over a period of time, explored every option possible to try to sustain it. But just at this point, felt like we had to make a decision. It's a very complex situation on multiple levels, and this is really the last window that we had, and we did what we felt was best for the team.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part of our job, is you spend a lot of time with a guy. All of us have a certain group of guys in our room that we spend more time with than others. And in Jimmy's case, the better part of 4 years. So you're always sad. There's a human element to this game that you can't ever get away from. We understand the business side of it, but the human element is that, you had a guy in your room that you really enjoyed being around, you coached, that spent a lot of time learning and grasping what you were doing, and you saw him grow and get better and mature and improve through the course of time, and and now he's not here. So, I wish him nothing but the best. I really, really think a lot of this guy. He's got a bright future. He's a great person, and I hope he does well for himself out there.
All right, guys. So, hearing what both McDaniels and Belichick had to say, obviously, couldn't say enough good things about Garoppolo. Belichick, what stood out to me is him saying he met with Garoppolo weekly. Really, both of them very fond of the player. My initial reaction as to why because there was so much speculation, and Adam Schefter saying absolutely not, they're not trading Garoppolo during the offseason, but we all thought that was a very strong possibility that he could be traded during the offseason. So my guess as to why now would be that the Patriots came into this season with a loaded arsenal and everyone expecting them to go 19-0, and you have to think that the expectations here were high for them coming into this season, and that it seems like all the chips were in. We talked about this, how they give Gilmore the big contract. They seem to be laying it all out on the table to try to get the sixth banner up here at Gillette Stadium and win another Super Bowl. Do you think that the way things have been playing out, they are, of course, still really good, but Hogan's banged up now, Gilmore, Edelman obviously being out, some of the struggles that the obstacles they've encountered here as the season's gone along, do you think that had anything to do with them trading Garoppolo away?
Why would that?
Because
how would those be connected?
Is that if Tom Brady, the only thing that would have stopped them then, if they say they still have fully loaded, everyone's healthy, Edelman, if Tom Brady had gone down and gotten hurt, I feel like them winning a Super Bowl with Garoppolo still could have been possible. Now I feel like if Tom Brady goes down, they're done. They're absolutely done. Even if they still had Garoppolo to go in now at this point in the season, given the struggles that they have to deal with, I don't feel confident that he could lead them to a Super Bowl.
In that scenario, if Tom Brady goes down with a season-ending injury at age 40, you've got to imagine that he's probably done or pretty close to done for his career. And then if you trade away Jimmy Garoppolo and that happens, you don't have a quarterback next year. That's basically what happens right now. If Tom Brady suffers, if he tears his ACL, God forbid, next week, and he's done for a full year, you don't have a quarterback next year. Brian Hoyer is currently your second string quarterback, and as much as Brian Hoyer is a quality backup, I think that was a good move to bring him in. He's not the quarterback of the future, so now you don't have a quarterback of the future.
Right, but if Tom Brady doesn't get hurt, then there's still the possibility that maybe he'll lead them to another Super Bowl again this year, and then beyond this season, continue into a
I don't think that's why they
years
traded Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they traded Jimmy Garoppolo because they were going to need to make a decision about him eventually. I think they thought that there was a possibility that they could sign him to a contract extension sometime before he hits free agency, and they just were not going to be willing to franchise him if the opportunity came up over the offseason, because they simply don't really have the cap room to do that. If they had gone into the season with $15 million worth of cap room that they could have carried over into next season, then it would have been a lot more feasible to actually franchise him next offseason. That's not the scenario. They can't really build a team while also franchising Jimmy Garoppolo since those contract negotiations weren't really going anywhere, since Jimmy Garoppolo wants to play, it basically forced their hand into trading him. I don't think it has anything to do with that.
Why hold on to him for this long? Why
to
not
try to see if they can?
The but what changed?
They lost faith that they could do it.
I think there are two.
There's nothing that would have affected those contract negotiations. Like, nothing in terms of Jimmy Garoppolo wanting to play has changed between the offseason and now.
I think it was all negotiations. It's all about a back and forth there. And also, I will say that it could have played into this decision the fact that they did want to, I don't know if this is true or not, but that they did want to make sure Tom Brady was still Tom Brady. Make sure he still has a second half. You've gone through a half of a season now. He looks like Tom Brady despite taking more hits, despite all this other stuff. He still is playing at a very, very high level. Now that I guess if the Patriots see that he still is at this level, they know that Jimmy Garoppolo is not expendable, I would say, but ideally he's not going to play a down this season. And
if Tom Brady didn't come out looking like himself this season, then that's what changes the negotiations. Then Bill Belichick is saying to Don Yee or Jimmy Garoppolo, all right, it's looking like you're going to be the starting quarterback here sooner than later. Jimmy Garoppolo is seeing how well Tom Brady's playing, and he's saying, I'm not going to be the starting quarterback here for another 3 or 4 years with the way that Tom Brady's playing so far. So, no, I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that the Patriots don't think they can win a Super Bowl, and that's why they would trade Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just a very big stretch.
But the variable, all the injuries that have occurred, and the way this team isn't as strong, it's still strong.
There's 2 injuries, right? There's Dante Hightower and Julian Edelman.
Those are, first of all, huge injuries on both sides of the ball.
It's 2 injuries.
Other guys are beat up now. Hogan, Gilmore.
He's coming back. Malcolm Brown's coming back.
Hold on. Is the team performing the way you thought it would coming into the season?
Right now, kind of. I mean, they've won 4 in a row. They're
good, but I'm saying those
they're going to go 12 and 4.
But if you're looking for something that has changed from the offseason to now, it's that Julian Edelman and Dante Hightower, this team isn't as strong as we all projected it would be this season, a kind of shoo-in to win another Super Bowl. And when you're saying Tom Brady, we knew last season when we saw Tom Brady in the Super Bowl that he was 39 years old then, he's 40 now. He was playing incredibly. So
the biggest flaw I see in that,
I think it may have had something to do with it. They had faith in Garoppolo.
It's Tom Brady.
The biggest flaw I see in that is that if they thought they didn't have the pieces to win a Super Bowl this year, it's not like they're just going to punt on the season. If that was the case, they would have traded Jimmy Garoppolo and gotten somebody who can help them now, or flip that pick to get somebody who can help them now.
Or they trade Tom Brady and
or
build
trade somebody else. The fact that they didn't
I
make
think that if his play had declined, I mean, that's something we also speculated during the offseason.
Right.
All right, but we will not come to a consensus on this debate because we need to move on to the next topic. However, I will stir the pot on this anytime, anywhere, if you guys want to do it on social media, wherever that may be. Let's move on to the social sack, though. First of all, we have the San Francisco 49ers welcoming Jimmy G to the family. Of course, kind of a generic hello there. But then as far as his Patriots teammates, Danny Amendola saying the Niners got a good one. Business side of doing things, which is part of what McDaniels talked about, and hashtag Italy. So that was a farewell. And so I picked out a couple of tweets that I really liked. This one I thought was funny, that the Patriots traded Garoppolo after Brady had sucked his life force out of him like a space vampire to stay young. 49ers getting an empty skin husk.
You never know.
That's certainly an interesting theory.
That might be part of the TB12 method.
It's a spooky Halloween-themed take right there.
I mean, no one knows how he is beating Father Time, so maybe that's it. This one also, Jimmy Garoppolo better get used to losing. The Jimmy Garoppolo woke up 6-2 this morning, go to sleep 0-8. Life comes at you fast. I did think that was funny. The similar tweet was sent out last season when the Patriots traded Jamie Collins. This one I do think is different, though, because Garoppolo's in a better place for himself.
I think he'll take this. I think he'll take this trade. Yeah.
On that, what do you guys think that we do have a couple more social things, but real quick while we're on just this topic, what's your prediction for Garoppolo's first game in? Do you think he'll be able to nab San Francisco their first win of the season?
I don't know about that. Well, maybe, because it could be against the Giants, and the Giants are pretty bad. I project that he probably starts in Week 10. I know that some people out in San Francisco are saying that he might not start until Week 12 because they have a Week 11 bye, but get the guy in there. He'll be better than C.J. Beathard, regardless of how well he knows the offense.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, too, is that with Kyle Shanahan's offense, it usually kind of takes a year to get into it. I mean, we saw with Matt Ryan the first year he was in Atlanta, Matt Ryan kind of stunk. And now, again, he kind of stinks now. But in the second year, he was an MVP. And I mean, so if Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a superstar right away, I know Pats fans are going to write him off pretty quickly if he doesn't go out there and light it up in San Fran. But give him a little time. I think he'll be all right. Yeah.
Well, here he is arriving. Mark, do you have sound on for this? Let's play this video. Wait, can you play it?
Yeah,
okay. Is it now?
playing already.
Lots of
Go
mixed
on,
messages
producer,
from Mark.
produce. So that video was from the 49ers Snapchat of Garoppolo being told, go ahead, take a closer look at the Lombardis. And I tweeted that I thought it was funny because he's like, and it's like, you've seen a few of those. I said it was
old
like
news.
when you open a Christmas gift in front of the person that gave it to you and you're like, yeah.
And you already have it, maybe.
Yeah, and you have to act like you're really surprised or really happy about it. So I thought that was funny. And then meanwhile, all of this is going down, and Tom Brady and Giselle are in avocado sandwich toast for Halloween. So, and I liked your tweet. Giselle had tweeted that Tom Brady was eating chocolate and
off the diet.
What did you say about that?
I forgot, but it was
that he's getting complacent.
It's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, very dangerous. So, hang on, pulling up my rundown. We're adding in some new segments here, which is trying to be fun, but it's difficult when you have an iPad. All right, so let's talk a little more about what else went down or didn't go down, I guess, for the trade deadline. Was this a missed opportunity to fix the defense? Because we did talk about some possibilities that they have made any moves.
I think they should have made some moves on defense. I think they could have done at least something. Maybe flipped that second-round pick or moved their own second-round pick or flipped Rex Burkhead or even Malcolm Butler just to add a little bit more pass rush help because, I don't know, the pass rush without Dante Hightower didn't look that dangerous on Sunday, and I think that might be an issue moving forward unless Kyle Van Noy can really step up into that role or unless, Dietrich Wise or Adam Butler. Shea McCullough, I don't have a lot of hope that he can play that Dante Hightower role as well as Hightower. So I would have made a move. Patriots didn't. They're content with what they have, but I don't know. I think they could have added something there.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a huge flash or anything, but I thought they would bring in a like a Jonathan Casillas level player, kind of a role player, basically similar to the trades they made earlier in the season. I thought we'd see at least another one or two of those because they do have holes on this team, and they really didn't. This entire trade deadline, they did not address any of the needs that they currently have on the team, which was a little surprising to me. I mean, like you said, the pass rush, the linebacking core is a little weak. At tight end, still haven't gotten much from Dwayne Allen. Even wide receiver is a little shaky now, but even though it seems like Chris Hogan's going to be back sooner rather than later, there's some holes in this team, and I'm a little surprised they didn't address any of them.
I was very surprised as well, and I thought they would try to make a move just to be able to proceed with some more confidence on the defense. But that being said, let's move right into our Week 8 takeaways, because that said, one of my biggest takeaways from their game against the Chargers is that 2 weeks in a row now they've given up very few points without Eric Rowe and Stephon Gilmore. Of course, that is in the secondary, not the pass rush, obviously, but I've liked the improvement that I've seen, especially when it comes to the secondary. That was my biggest takeaway from that game, and that those guys were not in there yet again, and they did well.
After Week 3, the Patriots were ranked 32nd in points allowed. After Week 4, they were 31st. They're now 18th. Over the last 3 weeks, they are tied for 3rd in points allowed. So this defense is really coming together. Still not ready to declare them definitively good, but they are still playing well,
and
to be grammatically correct.
The fact that they were without Dante Hightower and Malcolm Brown, too, in this game, those are two very big pieces. I'm going to go a little more negative on my biggest takeaway. The red zone issues are just becoming a real problem for this team. I mean, there's no reason this game here on Sunday should have been anywhere remotely as close as it was. It should have been a 38-40-13 or something like that. Instead, it was 21-13, and Phillip Rivers had a chance to win at the very end, which is really becoming a trend. I mean, if some of these other teams are able to kind of basically, if any of these three teams are able to complete a 2-minute drill, the Patriots would have lost a couple of these games because they're really not giving themselves much room for error by struggling in the red zone and even right outside the red zone. Basically, like inside the opponent's 30-yard line, they have no problem getting into that zone, but once they get there, they just kind of stop being effective for whatever reason. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that they have to work on and improve on in this bye week, which it comes at a good time because the team is on a roll. They have won 4 straight games, but there are very clear areas of this team that you can point to say they have to improve this. So I think it's a good time to do it.
I'll jump on that real quick too and just say that the longer Chris Hogan's out, the more that red zone offense is going to struggle as well, because he was really one of the only guys who could score in the red zone earlier in the season. And now if you're talking about Brandon Cooks, Philip Dorsett, and Danny Amendola being their wide receivers, those are 3 kind of miniature NFL human beings, and that usually does not fare too well in the red zone. You need those bigger targets. So a lot more onus on Rob Gronkowski and on Dwayne Allen if he can ever get it together here.
And they're leaving a lot up to Stephen Gostkowski. He goes 4 for 6 on field goals in that game. So the 2 that he missed, I mean, he seemed to be back in his rhythm. Everyone, up in arms prior to this last season, missed several field goals. And then he was not at practice today. So what does that tell you? Is there concern for... I mean, there was always speculation that is he maybe somewhat beat up? Is that why he's... Because he used to be, make nearly 100% of the kicks he took, and he hasn't been quite his vintage self.
I don't think you can freak out too much about Stephen Gostkowski, because he has been very good throughout most of the season. I know he missed an extra point, I think, earlier, but on field goals, he's been very good up until this game, and even in this game, he had to kick 6 of them. You want your kicker to make all of them. Ideally, he should. I mean, Stephen Gostkowski is still one of the better kickers in this league when he's on. So, I don't think there's anything to freak out. Overall, the Patriots special teams have been very, very good this year, especially this past game.
Is Steve Gostkowski versus Stephon Gostkowski like an Urkel situation?
It might be.
Or on Family Matters, there was Stephon and there was Steve Urkel.
I hope so. Just
maybe Stephon is the good Gostkowski and Steve is the bad one. Yeah.
Well, this will take us into our bye week breakdown and the challenges that we're discussing right now. Josh McDaniels said that what a way to spin things is kind of like, we got them right where we want them, just looking at the glass half full. He said that it's good to have issues that they're working out right now. And so I followed up with that and asked why. Is that because he very specifically said we're in a good place, we want to have these issues. And I said, well, why is that better than having all the kinks ironed out? And he said, because in so many words, that it helps them to not get complacent, which I thought was an interesting thing, that it may, if you have
Keeps them on our
issues
toes.
that you're
Yeah.
working out now, work them out now.
It kind of
And
goes,
then,
It kind of goes to what I just said earlier. The fact that these issues have not been costing them games. They've still been winning games. They're on a 4-game winning streak, but they can't. I mean, Bill Belichick's going to have a very easy time going into this week, not having to convince the team that something's wrong that they have to fix. Just be like, look at the tape. You guys are doing this wrong. If you continue to do this wrong, we're going to lose games. So I think the coaching staff actually kind of likes it this way. The fact that they do have some very clear areas of improvement that they can point out to the players, and there can't be any complacency here. I don't think there's going to be, because this Patriots team has not played as well as it should, even though it is now 6-2, and I think that's going to be a positive thing going forward.
That's at first when he was saying that it's a good thing, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well,
It's still kind of a stretch. Even with the explanation.
It
I'm
definitely
like,
is. I mean, the only thing that I can kind of compare it to, I guess, is, they go 18-0 and then lose in the Super Bowl, and when was it?
I think it's just like
years ago now that you kind of want to get that loss out of the way. Remember when they started the season 10-0, and then it was like, all right, well, they're not going undefeated.
I think Bill Belichick just likes kind of lighting into the team when they're not playing well, and if he can pick something out, then it helps him, because if there's nothing there, then he can't pick on them and yell at them and do all the things that he does. So
one other thing that Josh McDaniels did say that I was cracking up about, actually, this was more, he was asked what he thought of Bill kind of feeding him to the media wolves out here and having to come talk to all of us about the trade when Bill can ride off into the bye week without addressing anything.
Well,
he
Bill
didn't
did
even
talk
know. He was
yesterday.
like,
Bill did talk about it yesterday.
but not in person.
not really though.
Just a conference call. I guess he just kind of basically gave a statement, and that was about it.
And
But
we didn't get to see his dirty looks or anything like that.
no, we did get to talk to all the coordinators today, which is always fun. I was like talking to Dante Scarnecchia. I talked to him a little bit earlier, and he's one of the most brutally honest people in football that I've talked to. We asked him about the offensive line, which obviously hasn't been. It's the exact same crew from last year, but it hasn't really performed as well. He's like, yeah, we were terrible earlier this year. We're still kind of terrible right now. We're a little bit better, but still pretty terrible. It's my fault. I'm going to make sure we're not terrible. But all right, cool.
They definitely were terrible earlier. I think that they've done quite a good job of fixing it up in the last few weeks. But it's always good talking to the coordinators. Ivan Fears had some good things to say about the running backs, and Chad O'Shea really went pretty deep into the red zone issues and saying that they just need to be more consistent moving forward, that earlier in the season they were seeing things that they liked, and they just have to go back to those and basically go back to what was working in the past, and those red zone issues should be fixed. But that will take Chris Hogan being back, I believe.
And so given all the areas that could use improvement, who do you think could benefit most from really, whether it's hitting the playbook or hitting the weight room, to improve their game and come out after the bye week?
I think the rest is just going to help this team overall. I mean, even outside of the serious injuries, there are a lot of guys that have just been kind of banged up and nicked up. I mean, Danny Amendola has been pretty banged up all season. Chris Hogan was, even before he went down with an actual significant injury, he's kind of had those nicks and bruises that have limited him in practice, kind of left him limping around on the field. Just this team as a whole needs to get healthy, and the Patriots lucked out that they have one of these Week 9 bye weeks. That's really the perfect time for it, because it comes right in the middle of the season. I think they just have to relax, get healthy. They're only on the practice field once this week. Today was their only day of practice. They're off until, Monday now? Monday or Tuesday. And, it's going to be a good time to just sit back, get the body healthy, get the mind right.
See, that's what I'm saying. You guys are like, there's only 2 injuries. They're all banged up.
Well, everybody's banged up at this point. You
I
play professional football, everybody's banged up.
I would say that Gilmore, if I can answer the question, please,
ahead.
Michaela. I would say that it benefits Michaela and doesn't
benefit Michaela.
Stephon Gilmore the most, just because he kind of gets a reset button hit here, where he gets a few weeks off, he gets the bye week off, he can get back into the playbook, he can get healthy, and then I think that Johnson Batamosi kind of turned a little bit back into a pumpkin in the last game, where he
slightly pumpkin.
Wasn't quite as good as he was in the previous 2 weeks. He had the defensive pass interference. He was targeted 6 times, let up 5 catches. So wasn't quite as good. So I think it will be good to get Stephon Gilmore back into that defense.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the schedule the Patriots have coming up after the bye week. I am definitely going to have a Bill Belichick moment where I throw this iPad. Thank you. Here we are. I mean, I kind of knew it anyway. Just having this in my hand really throws me off. So they are in Denver, very high altitude, Denver, and then Mexico City to take on the Raiders. Just your assessment of the remainder of their schedule?
It's kind of a tough schedule. I mean, they aren't back here until November 26th. Broncos and Raiders, neither team are as good as we expected them to be, but being on the road for that long is going to be tough because they are going to be gone in Colorado Springs that entire week practicing at Air Force. So they won't be back here for a long time. And then a bunch of divisional games. They've got the Steelers thrown in there. Steelers is probably the toughest game. So you could just say, like, all right, they're better than that team, better than that team, better than that team, better than that team, and go through the list. But they're kind of put in tough situations here.
Yeah, and they're better than the Dolphins. They're better than the Jets. But are they better than the Steelers? Are they better than the Raiders and the Bills?
I'd say they're significantly better than the Raiders. Yeah. But travel-wise, it's a very difficult schedule because, like you said, they go to Denver, stay in Denver for the week, go to Mexico, then they have one game here, then they go back on the road for 3 games. So they have 5 of their next 6 games are on the road. They only play 1 game here at Gillette Stadium for the next 2 months. It's a little bit of a crazy schedule because it's really backloaded with road games and with divisional games. But Denver's not very good right now. They've fallen off after their hot start. Yeah. Oakland has not kept up with the pace that they set last season.
No, definitely not. I was impressed by them against the Chiefs, but
true. That was a wild game. But in recent weeks, they lost to who they lose to the Bills, which brings me to the Bills is going to be an incredible game. I think the Bills are actually. I'm not going to call them like a Super Bowl contender or anything, but I think they're a better version of the Dolphins from last year, where they're going to make the playoffs, and they could even. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up even winning a wild card game. I mean,
the divisional round there.
Yeah. It's a franchise that's been out of the playoffs since '99, since the Music City Miracle.
I think that Sean McDermott definitely brought a much needed culture change.
He did, for sure.
And then, of course, just quick note that they bring in that very last minute. The report was, 3:57. Yeah. They make the trade for Kelvin Benjamin, which gives Tyrod Taylor a legitimate target downfield. He's big. Had a great rookie season. Hasn't been as strong in the past couple years, but is a big-bodied, strong receiver.
The Bills are a tough team. I mean, I'd say that game up in Buffalo is probably their second most difficult game left behind the one in Pittsburgh that ends that 3-game road trip. Yeah, but overall, this end of the schedule I don't think it looks as tough as we thought it would be at the beginning of the season, with the Broncos and the Raiders not really holding up their end of the bargain and the Dolphins being kind of a mess right now. But there are some very difficult games, and the travel itself is going to take some real mental toughness, as this team always likes to say.
Yeah, well, final thoughts. My final thought is that it's good for the Patriots to be out in Colorado practicing before they go to Mexico City, where there's not a whole lot of oxygen. Yeah. You will be there, Doug. I did tell you earlier. So breathe as much as you can now. You just store your oxygen.
It doesn't work that way.
Stores food for hibernation.
Michaela's very confused. She needs to take a biology class.
Bring some oxygen tanks with you. We'll be worried about you out there.
I think I'll be fine.
Maybe I could use some oxygen right now.
I
can't stand this iPad. We're trying to improve the show by bringing, some other elements, and it's just throwing me off. I need a lesson in this. That's my
just
final
leave it.
thought.
Just leave
I dropped it. I'm gonna leave it there. That was actually an accident. Because if I was gonna throw it, I would have thrown it further than that.
At least we got the iPad rant in the podcast. That was important.
Sorry, Apple. It's nothing against the brand. Just those tablets in general. Zach, what are your final thoughts?
I've lost my train of thought with all this iPad rambling. No, final thoughts are just what we've said before. Got some time to get healthy now. Going to be on the road a bunch when they come back, and we'll be back here next week, right? We'll do a little bye-week edition.
Yeah, we will.
We will.
Heck yeah,
absolutely.
We will. The rest will do me very well too. I got a flu shot yesterday. I feel like my arm's gonna fall off.
Okay, don't care about your flu shot.
So that's all, folks. But really, we'll be back next week despite the bye.
And Michaela won't have the flu.
I might, though. Keep it on Nest.com for all your Patriots news.